Hello.
Hello, we're all here. Much
Welcome.
excitement.
Say hi if you're here, otherwise I won't know it. Um, but welcome. We'll go around and introduce ourselves for those of you who don't know. I'm Martine. This is my channel, Just Martine. Ruby's here. Hi, Ruby.
Ruby just left my house like 35 minutes ago to get home to watch this.
Well, Ruby made it.
Ruby just commented on my review of this book. I didn't tell you guys that I just posted my rating like 15 minutes ago, so she's the only one informed.
Oh, man. Okay. Who are you?
Hi, I'm Michaela. I'm her twin. It's no longer just Martine.
That's why I took away the just in the, yeah.
You should have put just Martine and Michaela.
Yep, nope, it's Martine and Michaela exclamation point today, so.
I gotta go. I gotta go.
Kayla's dead. All right, Bailey, who are you?
Hi, I'm Bailey. My channel is Bailey Reading, and I host this silly, goofy book club that Martine picked a book for, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Cool.
Me.
Yep.
Hi, I'm Kayla. My channel's Kayla Ray Reads. I'm just here because I read the book. But next month is on my channel, so be there, be square.
True.
This is like a preview.
Yeah.
All right, where did we want to start, Bailey? It's your book.
I would like to start with first mentioning what book we're going to be talking about.
No, that's not allowed. We're going to be talking about a mystery book the whole time.
Your job is to figure out which book
it is. Okay, here we go. No, we read, let me try again. Pretend the last 5 seconds didn't happen. That book, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo by Stieg Larsson.
This book.
We read it.
This chunky book.
I don't think I registered that it was that big when I picked it.
I feel like I've seen it in person before, and like, yes, it looks large, but it doesn't look that large.
But I have to say, for my first book club pick, I was like in between some options, and I told you like one of them is really long, and you were like, you should go for it. And it's a good thing I didn't, because that one's like almost 1,000 pages, and I did not pick it. So you guys are welcome.
That was like the second month of book club ever.
Imagine if I'd been like, 1,000-page book, y'all, let's do this.
And that month that we read that, I had COVID that month. So imagine me trying to read 1,000-page book and have COVID instead of the other book we read.
Bailey barely finished this one.
Wrong.
You just called Bailey out. What the heck? You come into Bailey's book club and you do this? She said it was a delight.
It's okay. It's okay. I did barely
COVID. Harris says,
hi, Harris.
Bros.
Also, is Mom here? Because Kayla's mom was going to be here.
Yeah, Kayla, where's your mom?
I don't know. Let me text her.
That's okay. Mary, if you're here, I love you.
But yeah, so we read a book.
Yeah, we read The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo by Stieg Larsson. I did not prepare to pitch this, but I can. It is about a magazine journalist who essentially is stepping away because there was some scandal, but he gets propositioned to investigate this missing young girl, but it happened a long time ago, so maybe she's not so young anymore, by the family. And then it's, yeah, that. Is that a good description? I mean, there's a lot more than that.
Yeah.
But it's an investigative mystery.
It's a crime novel about a myriad of crimes. It's not just one mystery. That's why it's so long, because it's like 4 mysteries.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot here.
So, do we want to keep to non-spoiler things for this first part, or are we jumping in?
Sure, we can talk non-spoiler a little bit. Mostly, the only thing I have to say about non-spoilers, sorry, my daughter is screaming.
I thought you were just going to end on, sorry, she's my daughter.
I do think that the parts were very well, like, divided. Even in terms of page number, but in terms of, like, this is this thing, this is this thing, this is that thing. And I do enjoy that in a book. Anybody else? Did that not stand out to anybody else? I feel like I mentioned that a lot. I feel like I also mentioned that when Kayla and I just read Mistborn, that I was like, oh, I like how the parts are, and I feel like nobody else cares.
I mean, I did think they were nicely segmented.
Okay, that's all.
I think my only non-spoiler thing is that I still don't know how to pronounce any of the names of the characters.
I will say my sister's name's Erica, like they spell it in this book. And so switching to the audiobook was a little harsh because they pronounce it more like, I don't even think I can say it out loud without sounding silly, but they pronounce it more like Erika. And that was a name that when I switched to the audiobook, I was like, no. Who?
You're like, who is
Because
that?
I'm like, that's Erica.
What was the accent for your audiobook?
Did we not listen to the same audiobook?
Mine just sounded like Erica. Like mine sounded like I would say Erica. My guy was British.
I'm going to look at who narrated the audiobook version I listened to. Simon Vance
Let's see.
was the narrator. But also I think we should talk about what we all gave this book.
Because Ruby already knows.
Yeah, Ruby's like, Bailey, stay on track. Who cares yet?
So, you wanna start, Michaela?
Yeah, Michaela finished first, so she should have to start.
Okay, sure. So I gave this book 4 stars, and I rate solely based on gut feeling. So I really have no good reason to.
So
have
that
given
meant
it that.
nothing.
That's a good enough reason.
Yeah.
I mean, that does not mean nothing. It means something.
I mean,
Thank you.
it means something in her brain and how she's rating books, but it objectively means nothing.
That being said, we're twins. What did you rate it?
I rated it 4 stars.
And what does
It's
that
also
mean?
gut feeling. So yeah, I gave it 4 stars. I had a good time, but it wasn't my new favorite book. So that's what I rated it. And then Kayla finished.
I gave it 4 stars. I also really enjoyed it, but again, not my new favorite book.
Now I think this is gonna knock us off course a bit. Bailey, what did you rate it?
I gave this, and we're going to discuss why, because different parts worked and different parts 100% didn't. I actually gave this 2.5 stars.
Oh,
Okay.
we all were like,
I know. I feel like I texted Kayla like a little while ago, like this week, and was like, I don't think it's going to be 1 star. And she was like, if you give this 1 star, I'm going to.
I think
I had got to the climax already. Like she sent me that while I was in the middle of like the main climax.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna fight you.
I think when I pick book club books, you always land at like 2.5 stars.
But I think that sometimes my scale skews different than other people's, because sometimes I think my 2.5 is like most people's like 1.5. No, that's not what I'm trying to say. But mine 2.5 is most people's like 3.5. The other way.
Uh-huh.
Like I think that I use the full scale, and some people just use this much of the scale.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's all. Like some people don't give 1 star.
As somebody who uses only part of the scale, I'm offended. That's all.
But you get what I'm saying? Like some people don't give books 1 star.
Yeah.
And if
I
I
am
don't,
that
I
person.
would happily give it 1 star.
Yeah.
Okay,
You just won't finish a book.
good talk.
Yeah, no. But I just think it's a trend that like books that I pick for book club specifically, you're like, yeah, 2.5 stars.
I mean, books that I pick for myself in general in life, I give. Remember the 2-star streak? Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember it. I remember. I'm not offended. I picked this not sight unseen, but sight unread. So that's the fact that you finished it to me is huge.
I wouldn't DNF it. I couldn't. Not for book club. I wouldn't DNF it.
You could if you hated it enough.
Well, we made it here, and I read the whole thing. So
Did anybody else who's here read it? Did Ruby read it?
I don't think so.
No. Okay, Ruby had full intentions of reading it and then didn't.
Yeah.
I love
I think I scared her away, so I feel kind of bad.
I think she
not
thought
blaming you, but
reading it.
I do just want to say that I also think with the parts that nobody wanted to discuss, that they also increased in quality as we got through the parts. Like I really suffered through the first part, and the second part I really was like, please no more of this. And then the third part came and there's stuff started happening and I was like, okay, this is good. I care about the mystery. And then the fourth part like also worked. So that was my progression through it. So I will say, like, if anybody starts this and isn't liking it at first, that it does improve as it goes.
See, I felt like the fourth part was pretty much unnecessary. Like there was a point in the fourth part where I was like, why is this still going?
It's there because this is a series.
That's fair. That's fair.
And knowing that, I get it. Know what I mean? Like, I just feel like, not to do this, but I'm going to compare this to In the Woods. Like, that one was so open-ended, like, you don't even get a conclusion, and it's because it's a mystery series.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to read the next one. Would you guys read the next one of this?
Yes.
Yes.
But not because of part 4. Because I read the description on Libby and I said, that sounds fun.
Maybe I should have done that. So I would assume, fill me in, I would assume that the second one is like the same, like it's going to be Millennium, but they're going to be researching something else.
I don't know how much the magazine is involved. I just know that the main guy is looking at this one murder, and according to the like blurb, it says that the girl's fingerprints are on the gun, and so he has to prove that she's innocent.
Okay.
Oh, so like Elizabeth?
Yeah.
I could see her killing a man straight up.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, when she didn't do it, she probably did do it.
Yeah.
we can build to that.
It's a cover-up. Anyway, yeah, so I guess now we don't have anything non-spoilery to say.
Not really, no.
Do we want to move to spoilers?
Yes.
This is your disclaimer if you're watching. There will be spoilers from here on out. I think you all are fine with that, but I wanted to say it. Okay. Who has thoughts?
I have thoughts because did you guys read the authors like Goodreads? Like do you ever click on the actual author?
I didn't for this one.
Okay. So essentially so this wouldn't have been that spoilery. Whatever. But Steve Larson died before this was published. I'm pulling it up just so I can reference this as I talk about it. Steve Larson died before this was published, so they basically found that he had like 3 unpublished manuscripts, and it was this series. But it says that he was a journalist for a magazine, and when he was 15, he witnessed a rape and was helpless to stop it. This event haunted him for the rest of his life. The girl being raped was named Lisbeth, which he later used as the name of the heroine on his Millennium trilogy. Sexual violence against women is also a reoccurring theme in his work. And so to me, that's what I didn't like. Mm-hmm. I didn't like that sexual violence against women was like a whole thing in this. Mm-hmm. But that's like to me, that makes this book feel like he wrote like his life.
Mm-hmm. I think hearing that changes things a lot for me.
Yeah.
Because when I was reading it, I was like, why does this have to be such a strong part of it, especially written by a man? But to know that it was because of an event in his life that like got to him.
Like, I feel like he wrote the Lisbeth and her guardian, whose name
none of us know
out on purpose.
Bierman or something.
Was like him writing what he witnessed so that he could have some sort of like redemption for Lisbeth.
Mm-hmm. And he was like, this is just for me. And then somebody was like, or.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That this also wasn't necessary. Like, who knows if this was written with his intention to ever publish it. Mm-hmm. I would guess it would be because it was published not that long after he died. So maybe he was like already in the process of doing that. But also
I feel like a second and third book wouldn't be necessary if he had no intention of
doing anything with it.
Yeah.
Huh. That's just throwing me through a bit of a loop, not gonna lie.
Right. And I just read that like as I finished the book, so
Yeah, that's also, it's got Ruby.
Right. Interesting take on where this book came from, but I don't know. Yeah, like if you see my book at the beginning, this is literally character introduction, and I was being taken aback just by how the women are described.
Mhm.
I didn't like it at all.
Yeah.
I didn't like that at all.
Michaela and I had an interesting conversation on one of our walks when we were talking about some of the descriptors that were used, especially about Lisbeth. And we were wondering how many, if any, of the specific word choices were translational issues.
I agree with that. And it also was published in 2005.
Yeah.
So there are things that because of when this was published that I get, but there's a lot of description. One, the R word is used multiple times.
Mhm.
But also the description I noticed over and over again is women were described as being anorexically thin.
Mhm.
Again and again. Like, why? I don't like that term.
And it was used really repetitively.
And I just think that that's also something that, like, could, again, be both because of when it was published, but also translation. Like, you wonder what words were used in the original manuscript.
Yeah. No, that bothered me too. I think as a reader, though, there are different experiences when you have descriptors you don't like, right? Like for me, my brain is just like, I notice it. I'm going to try and
Yeah.
And every time it happened, like I made note of it, and I was like, I kept trucking.
Right, like you want to ignore it, so it's just gone. It doesn't exist.
Mhm.
And even at like in the epilogue, they talk about somebody. I was in the audiobook, so I'm not gonna find it. I don't know why I'm looking. As basically describing somebody, and all that he talks about is her boobies. So it's like even at the end when I was like, okay, I got better, then it was just like, nope, this is still what we're doing.
Yeah.
So that's where I was on the low that I introduced my thoughts on this book at. But other than that, I'd like to talk about the mystery.
Yeah, sure. Do you have things you want to say about the mystery, Bailey?
Maybe somebody else should talk for a second.
Kayla, do you have thoughts?
No, I mean everything we already kind of talked about is stuff that I could have mentioned. I should have prepared better, but I was just here to piggyback off of other things.
We're winging it.
Oh, we're winging it. I was like, what? I don't know. Come back. Pass.
Do you have anything that jumps to mind? That there were so many people it could have been, and it wasn't what I expected. I think like it's just so much darker than I could have even. Yeah, that was my bad, guys.
Come up with yourself, right?
Didn't realize that. Well, when you pick an internationally best-selling book, this is maybe not how dark you expect it to get.
That's fair. But some people, like, I feel like you underestimate the best-selling in that people like dark stuff.
Well, and I can appreciate that because it was so much darker than I expected, there was no way I was going to guess who done it correctly. Like, that threw me for a loop.
That's also fair.
Yeah, but that does mean it was, like, super disturbing. Yeah. Well, they also did not give you enough information to possibly figure it out, I felt.
And I don't like when I can solve a mystery, but I also think that could be a negative, that it just like comes out of left field. Like there wasn't enough breadcrumb. You want to feel like they gave you enough that like, oh, I should have figured that out, but I didn't.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel that at all.
And yet, on the other hand, like I truly felt like we were investigating it along with them. Like we were getting the pieces as they were. We were like, oh,
yeah,
she was seeing something that disturbed her. Who was she seeing? So then we're putting together timelines and stuff. And in that way, it made it interesting. That also might just be a positive for me because one of my favorite things about Sherlock stories is that like you don't have enough information and Sherlock Holmes is like, I solved it. And you're like, literally how? And then he tells you everything and you're like, we didn't know half of that. So I think that played a role for me. I did find it interesting because usually I like stories about corruption, but the like corruption aspect I didn't like nearly as much as like the murder mystery part of it. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
I'm sorry, I had to mute to tell him to go away. I feel like he never knows when it's like a more serious live show or when he can just interrupt, and this is not the interrupting. I think the first things we talked about when we talked about the mystery in general was in general going into a missing person and being like, are they dead or alive? So I feel like that part was a little bit predictable.
But one thing that I liked is how you were solving this murder mystery, and there was a murder mystery. It wasn't like Harriet still being alive took away from the murder mystery. There was still a satisfying conclusion to the murder mystery. It was just she was not the one that was murdered.
Yeah.
Which I feel like when you have a haha, they're not dead, you only get that and not like we solved a serial murder as well.
Yeah. Right, like the case was so much bigger than you thought it was going to be than just this one missing girl.
Right.
I don't read a lot of books that follow like investigative journalists, like pretty much none actually. And so I really enjoyed his process and seeing like how he went about it. And I just thought it was amazing the amount of detail he went into to like find the photographs that would show what she was seeing and all of that stuff. And so I really enjoyed that aspect of the book as well.
Yeah, that was probably my favorite part. It was like him, was it a couple like going and finding that couple?
Yeah, from their honeymoon.
Being like, do you have the pictures? Like, I see that
you were holding a camera
together, right? Like also when he was hooking up with Cecilia, and then that's her name, right?
Yeah.
Oh no. And then thought it was her in the window. Like that was a little bit of like,
oh.
Yeah, when it turned out to not have been her in the window, I was like. So, because that's a pretty big accusation to bring forward. It's like, I knew you were in her room. And then Cecilia was like, what are you talking about? I was not in her room. And I fully believed her because I was like, this woman doesn't know what he is talking about.
Yeah.
But that's like the thing. Like, I feel like if you know that you have a sibling that you look exactly like, and somebody's accusing you of something, you're like, oh yeah, if it wasn't me, it had to be her.
Right, your mind would immediately go there.
Yeah, I feel like we didn't acknowledge until he put the pieces together. Like, nobody mentioned how similar they looked until he was like, oh my gosh, there's a second person who looks like this. Well,
right.
Didn't they discuss the reason for that? Where, like, because she separated from the family, like, they didn't see her much anymore. And then, like, when they had originally introduced the photos of her, like, what the heck was his name? The benefactor who, like, hired him. Was it Henrik?
Yep. Yep.
So he hadn't dismissed that girl outright, like she didn't do it or something. So he wasn't Longfist wasn't like looking at her because he was like,
I just feel like that again though is just like a little bit sloppy in the writing, honestly. Like it just makes it feel silly that like, oh oops, we forgot to mention
they look alike.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it's a convenient plot device.
I was at least glad that it wasn't like, oh, we forgot about her identical twin. Like they were related and they happened to look alike. But I've read books where they've been like, oh my God, it was the twin actually. And you didn't know there was a twin until now.
So silly.
So.
I do like the style of this. I just think it was too long. Like if this mystery would have been a condensed like thriller book, I think I would have absolutely loved it. Like I love the whole concept of the room in the basement and like he whatever and then discovering that. But I didn't care about all the other stuff.
Yeah.
It really started to pick up only after the cat incident.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Like
part 3 could have just been the whole
Yeah.
thing.
The,
book.
the room in the basement, though, like, I feel like it just kind of like happened. Like, you were like, oh yeah, he's going in there. It's there. He murdered people in there. Like,
Yeah.
I wanted them to, like, maybe a flashback for whatever reason would have been fun.
I like that concept.
Thank you.
You know what? I don't know if I'm in the right here, but I felt like the way that Martin's basement room was portrayed was like not accurate to what he was doing. Is that just me?
Like, in terms of, you don't think that it was based off of like keeping somebody for a long time, and
like it didn't seem like, I'm not explaining this well. So like when they described it, I was like, I can understand how this is the setting he's using to do these things, but also I feel like it doesn't make sense with like the trajectory of his whole life. So he's had these victims this whole time.
Yeah.
He now has this like very like sterile seeming basement room where he does things, but like what about before? Like in his father's house, was there a room like this?
Right, like how were you doing it before that now you have this?
Right.
Like, decided, I guess that secret room would be helpful. Okay, I don't want to spoil this other book, but there's another thriller. There's another thriller that I absolutely love.
I have 5
that has a basement room, but I can't tell you what book it is. But like, to me, I also feel like that brings this book down because that secret room like did it for me so hard. So this secret room felt like the knockoff.
Yeah, this, I don't know why I imagine like the brightest fluorescent lights.
Yeah, me too, actually.
Oh yeah, like a bare hospital room is what you picture. That's what I picture.
I pictured more of like a glorified walk-in fridge from like a school. Yeah, and
that's fair.
I don't imagine things when I read them, but that was like the vibe that I got, and so it didn't make sense with this like serial killer.
Yeah.
Because it just seemed like, I don't know.
To me, a secret room just screams that you're going to keep somebody for a long time rather than like be a murderer.
But he did murder.
That's what I'm saying, is like, why did you need the room when you could have just murdered them?
Well,
is that the wrong thing to say?
Well, especially because I feel like the danger increases now that somebody could see you bringing someone into or out of your house. The fact that it was in his house was a little weird to me.
I mean, easy access, and I feel like anytime, like any cases I can think of missing people who are found later, that like is the case, is that they were.
Yeah, but you're telling me that on this small island with like this one primary family.
I am forgetting that the whole setting is already secluded, but okay, yeah.
So like you get there, you're telling me nobody's noticing all these strange people you're bringing into your house. Like, why didn't he have his place like off the island?
Yeah.
You know, where nobody.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't know. There was just something weird about it for me. It was like, Martin's normal, weird room. Like, that's how it went for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. Am I wrong about this?
No, you're not wrong.
No, that's true. I also wonder, like, he is, at that time, the CEO of the company. You can't tell me there's nobody else working in his household. Like, I find that hard to believe, that he's just in this house alone and not letting anybody come and take care of anything.
No, but I also feel like that gives it a little bit of, like, he is the CEO. So there's a little bit of, like, a hierarchy in terms of, like, he can do whatever he wants and nobody's going to question him.
I love how Bailey's defending all of these things, and she gave it the lowest rating.
Okay, my thing is just because I didn't like this, I hate it because we've now read like 2 investigative mysteries for the book club, this and In the Woods, which I picked In the Woods myself, and I didn't like either of them particularly, but it's like, I want to defend it because I want to be like, trust me, I do like this kind of book.
Here's the thing, though.
But like, where's the proof?
Do you like investigative thrillers, or do you just like thrillers? Because investigative thrillers are often a lot more drawn out. Like both this and In the Woods were a lot longer than you wanted them to be.
I think I do like them. I think that I do like investigative thrillers. I think I don't like when they're a series.
Okay.
Because, which you could argue that this is more of a thriller, but like one of my favorite mysteries of all time is The Night Swim.
Mm-hmm.
And I would consider that an investigative mystery.
Okay.
I don't know if
so here's what we have to do is one of our next
also I'm so dumb. The Karen Slaughter series I read is this done right, is investigative mystery series.
I feel like for one of our next book club picks, like in a year or something, we need to pick an investigative mystery or thriller that's a standalone, and we can put your claims to the test.
Okay. Fair.
I'm trying to think about this from like a psychological perspective. There was that one quote. Who said it? Was it Lisbeth or Blomqvist? Who was like, every time I say his name, I hate it. Who was like, if a psychologist heard about this, they'd lose their mind. And I was sitting there reading it, going like,
yeah, I think it was Salander. I don't know who said it.
I'm gonna look for it.
Kayla, why are you texting me stuff you can say out loud?
Kayla
said in a week.
Because we were talking.
Kayla said in a week, when I forget, recommend me a few books and add that thriller in the list so I won't know. The Secret Room thriller.
It's because we were talking and I didn't want to like.
You can interrupt.
Yes.
Wait, but now what were we saying?
I mean, I would like, do you think that you like investigative mystery series?
Me? Yes.
Because you've read these with me now.
Yes.
And enjoyed both. What did you give In the Woods?
I think I gave it 4 stars.
Okay. I'm doing a lot of self-reflection in this current 2 minutes.
Well,
I think there's something I need to come to terms with. Wow.
Okay, I actually have something that I've been thinking about. I am going to bring this up, but it's just to get to the part that I actually want to talk about. So Martin and his dad, all of their thing, I would like to talk about that together.
Yeah.
But my main thought was how the mom was like, I'm just going to do my own thing. I don't care what y'all do. I'm going to pretend nothing happened.
She was so unhelpful. Was her name Isabella?
Mm-hmm.
So irrelevant that I don't even know.
Yeah. Well, because she's mentioned a couple times.
Unhelpful.
She is the matriarch.
Yeah.
And I was like, and have we ever seen her on page?
I think that that's relevant, though, to the whole topic that they talk about, that Vangers don't get divorced.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a whole thing of, like, they're a family, but they are not close.
Yeah.
Like, nobody knows each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're just doing this because.
Yeah. That whole none of us get divorced was a little, I felt like they never dwelled on it enough for me. I was like, why? Is this because of some belief y'all have or what? How did you convince everybody who entered this family to then?
I mean, if I married for money, would I get divorced?
The company was starting to not do so great.
Yeah, you're right.
So, I don't know. But just, and like, these were some weird people.
Oh,
I would have tried to leave.
Yeah, it is like a little culty. Like, once you're in it, you can't leave.
Yeah.
Do you think it's because
of the isolated setting?
Do you think it's because that some of the older men in the family were Nazis, that they were like, don't tell anybody, like, or like people knew, but like maybe it was like we're trying to keep it together because we're Nazis.
No, I also think it's a little bit of the like, if one of us goes down, we're all going down. Like they know that they're like, if one piece falls, the whole cookie's gonna crumble.
Yeah. And I guess
did.
I don't know like what they said to their family to make it this way, but it was clear that Harriet was like, the only way I'm getting out of this is by pretending I'm dead. Like,
yeah, how bad is that? Like she had no other, like she had no other solution to being besides joining in this absurdity.
Hers was
it's
it
just so far-fetched to think that instead of like going to anybody, that you're just
instead your cousin can never get married because you're living under her name.
Oh yeah, that threw me.
I don't know. It's just I
really, I know I'm just making confused faces this whole time because a lot of this is just stuff that I'm going back to the map of the relations for one moment.
But yeah, I feel like that would be a fascinating book because they were like, wow, this family is so messed up, and there were a lot of things they wouldn't tell us about how they were messed up, and I was like, no, I want to be inside and see like what are they saying to these kids that Harriet feels like I gotta, like I know why she ran away, but for running away to be the only option, like why do they not get divorced? All of that. I feel like there's so much psychology there to unpack, and we just like let it go. I think that and like take away part 1 would have made it like a 5-star for me.
Yeah. But again, I feel like the part 1 situation in introducing everybody before they even introduce the mystery is again only there because this is going to be a series.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also feel like it was a like, we're setting up the multiple mysteries in one. We want heavy layerage there. But I was like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like on the back, it talks about a murder mystery. And then we were sitting there for a really long time. No one's dead.
I'm just thinking though about the pace that I read this at, because I read the first part in like a couple days and then took a break and then read the second part the second part I was stuck on for a while, but then the third part and fourth part I finished fairly quickly again. So the part that I liked the least, I probably read the fastest though, which was that first part.
Yeah.
That's probably also just that like new book feeling. But looking at this map that I went to go look back at, what I find interesting and that I think should have made me predict some stuff is that Henrik is way over here. And then this is way on the other side. They put Gottfried, Isabella, Martin, and Harriet. Way on the, like, hey, don't connect these because they're way over here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I feel like these go by age. But that's all. Like they're the furthest names from each other.
I feel like our
looking at what I'm looking at.
If it did, I definitely didn't look at it.
Yeah,
I never look at front material like that though.
It's actually, Kayla and I discussed this, weird because the family tree is actually between the prologue and chapter 1. So it's like in a weird place to find.
Yeah, you should go check it right now.
You didn't read that part using the physical book, though.
I didn't. So you need to check if you missed the family tree entirely.
You can't just flip to the family tree because it is after the prologue.
Yeah. No, that's weird.
I read the prologue and then maybe the first chapter together, and then I put it on hold, read some other things, and then came back to it. So I think that was a stupid thing to do for me because there was stuff in the prologue that I think would have made other things make sense later.
That's what I always think with prologues, though, when they're trying to, like, foreshadow. It's like, but when you're reading it, you have no idea what's going on. And then you forget about it. Is it there?
Yeah, it is there. Yeah. I think it was probably in my ebook too that I was reading, but
But you're
because
just like, next.
because it would be split up weird
Oh.
on like, the pages, I was probably like, you know.
Okay. What other points do we want to hit?
You can say it louder. Elizabeth was really weird.
Yeah, that's the point though. I feel like she's supposed to be a little like.
We did have a question. We wanted to know if anybody was capable of answering this.
Okay.
Why is she in their guardianship system? Why? Because just staying silent shouldn't be enough.
That basically she was. I don't know, because she is who is R-worded, basically, in saying that she's incompetent, but through the books, you're not getting that at all.
Right. Like,
so I don't know. I think at some point somebody put her into the system, and she obviously now is trying to get out of it. That's why she basically says, say that I'm, for me to not expose this, say that I am fine and can have my money. But I agree with you. Why is she there in the first place?
But she does kind of act incompetent in court, and we were talking about like, why does she do that? Like, we never found out why she just doesn't speak.
I also think it's maybe written in the time, because she's also a researcher, so they're trying to paint this picture of her, that it's also in the time where like being on the spectrum isn't really like a term.
Note to self, I had an answer, tried to make proper thoughts for my answer, and I found the appropriate answer, but I think in the next book it tells you why.
Okay. Oh.
Because I think like I just
read a spoiler.
But
that's the second time you've done that recently.
Honestly?
Because when we were reading Mistborn, you also read the synopsis of the next book.
I didn't even
read it. Saw.
Yeah, so more reason to read the next book, I guess, because I'm really curious about that. And it didn't make sense because I really felt like we didn't see her do anything that labeled her as incompetent. And it might just be because I don't understand the difference between the American system and the Swedish system. But I was like,
true,
you'd need a lot more to get somebody like under like in America. I think this would be under like conservatorship.
Yeah.
And typically that's something that's like really extreme. And you also have like regular reviews where you make sure like, oh, do they need this anymore? No.
Right.
We're good.
Because she's an adult, right? It's not like she's a child.
Right.
Or if her parents died and she got put into like a foster system, she now as an adult would not have a guardian.
Right. And like, even though her mother was it dementia? So I might be misremembering, which is ironic, but I think her mom had dementia. And so even though her mom couldn't take care of her affairs anymore, her mom still had a relationship. So it was weird to me that it was like, it did at some point, like, was your mom in charge of it, even though you were an adult, and then it transferred? Like, I don't know. It was just weird. And especially because the whole time I was thinking, like, is this just because it's Swedish or am I crazy? Like,
I feel like that probably definitely does play a part in terms of not understanding the system. But I don't think it was really described as to what, right? Like why. I mean, she's not going to have a guardian for no reason.
Yeah. Also, she was like, yeah, what the heck? Until she started getting assaulted by her guardian. And I was like, really? I'd be pissed from the beginning. I'd be like, no, I'm an adult. Like,
yeah.
So, I don't know. But that reminded me that I kind of wanted to talk about Swedish prison.
Okay, yeah.
Do you guys know much about Swedish prison?
No, but I feel like you're about to inform us.
The only thing I know about Sweden, period, is the Skarsgårds. Thank you.
Is what?
The Skarsgårds. Alexander, Bill.
I feel like Michaela's on the same page as me right now.
I just said who. I don't know what's happening.
It's like a big family. They're Swedish. The dad is like a super famous actor. He was Bill in Mamma Mia. Alexander Skarsgård's really famous. Bill is Pennywise.
You know so many actors, and
I'm not living in your universe.
Oh God. Okay, keep going. I'm sorry.
So it was interesting because I didn't think about it until that guy went to prison.
Yeah, Blomkist.
Yes, him. When he went for his 3-month sentence. First of all, the fact that they didn't serve the sentence immediately, that's not how
I thought that was really weird.
That's not how it works in America. In America, you're convicted and they're like, here we go, it starts today. And instead they were like, we kindly request your presence at the prison. But I was talking about it with Michaela because I was like, you know how he described it as like a vacation? Like he was kind of living his good life. That's entirely accurate for the Swedish prison system. Like,
I actually do feel like I've heard that.
It's a nice, I mean, it's not, hello. Hello? Is it Sweden? Like it's not like I've told so many better jokes in this live, and this has gotten the best laugh. It's not like I want to like reserve a spot at a Swedish prison, right? But if you're going to go to prison, like you'd like to end up in a Swedish one. I mean, there are lots of prisons around the world that are just a lot better than American prisons. But I thought it was interesting that, like, I don't know if many other American readers reading it would like track that and be like, this is a weird prison sentence. He kept his laptop. He was writing the whole time. Like he was just living. But truly, incarceration is so different in most other countries.
To be honest, I was that dumb person that was like, "Aw, they're just being really nice to him. They like his reporting."
Yeah, no. And like the fact that it was so well separated, like it wasn't maximum security or anything, and he was with like people on his like level of crime.
I mean, he was basically. Now I'm like, did he do something more serious than what I paid attention to? He was going to prison for like
libel.
I don't know what that word means though. That's
like lying about someone.
Right, like he basically is going to prison for like misreporting.
Yes.
Or like slander.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what libel is.
I did understand. Look, I learned a new word today. Thanks.
Good job.
Did you just skip over it when you were reading the book?
No, like I just read it and was like, oh, I think that means slander.
Okay.
Hold on.
Confirmation. That's what it means. So yeah, he did that, and he was with other like low level people. Like their crimes weren't that serious. I mean, he wasn't in there with like Martin or anything.
Yeah, they're not harmful to other people's like
non-violent criminals.
Right. And yet, when you look at the places that you keep violent criminals incarcerated in other countries, it's similarly not the same as the United States. Like it's still much nicer. You feel more like a human in other parts of the world when you're incarcerated. And the United States does this great job of dehumanizing criminals, many of whom are in prison for crimes that should not be crimes. So that was just interesting to me that it like stood out when he was in there writing his little book. And I was like, yeah, Swedish prison.
I mean, now that you mention it, it was very like, oh, he just got to keep working while he was there.
Yeah.
And he was just like, he basically was like, well, I'm going to have to go away for a month, but I'll keep working and it'll be no big deal.
Yeah.
And then I'll come back and keep researching.
I know Ruby, since you're still
maybe here.
Yeah.
I know you recently read a book about prisons. I watched your wrap up, and I wanted to know if you have any thoughts on the other prison systems of the world. Just shoot it in the chat if you do.
That's really interesting.
We can move on if we want.
Side tangent from that discussion that is completely irrelevant, but like a guy that I know and obviously know he was in prison for a substantial amount of time when I was selling books on Thursday was like, yeah, you'd probably be surprised, but I've read a lot of books. And he's like, but I won't tell you where. Like, we know where.
Yeah.
We know where, and we know why.
Yeah. You had enough time.
It's
You
the
read.
only entertainment that you could have, but I'm proud of you.
I don't know. I think
Ruby, I'd love to hear your reactions to international prisons. That would be great. We should chat about it sometime.
What was the book?
What was it called? Are Prisons Obsolete?
Okay.
That was the book. Which I haven't read, but have learned
I
about.
am curious if and when any of you read the sequel to this. I will probably get a hold of you for answers. Or like to tell me if I should read it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Because now that I know I like the audiobook, I'm not gonna.
Don't worry, we can write up our summaries of it. We can be like, here's the stuff
That's not your responsibility. That's same with I messaged Ruby about the book that she read that I read and DNF'd. And it was like, you can tell me what happens. And she was like, oh my gosh, I forgot. I'll tell you. And I'm like, no, if I wanted to know bad enough, I would have just finished it.
That's fair. Do we have any other thoughts? Do we want to talk more about Martin or Elizabeth or Blom, Fist, or
I feel like I should have more to say about Martin, but I don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was unwell. That was about the extent of it.
You ever feel like, because I know that you're like listen and your everyday studies are about this kind of stuff, do you ever feel like you're desensitized to like crime?
Yes.
Because I kind of feel like I consume so much of that kind of stuff too that at this point I like read it and I know that it's terrible and it's just like, oh wow, that's really bad, and then you just like, okay, I'm moving on.
I have to say, I think that's what got me about this book and why I ended up enjoying it so well is that there were crimes that I was like which is not.
I like that it was that dark.
Yeah, like those aren't reactions that I get very often. Like I found it very disturbing. I can't tell if that was like a positive thing or a negative thing for me because I was very disturbed by some of the.
Warn you about that bit.
Some of the crimes, but like specifically the like Leviticus style murders were just like very very planned and yet incredibly unhinged.
Yeah.
And like I was like, yeah, we can talk about Jeffrey Dahmer and how like he ate people and stuff, and that's fine. But all of a sudden you're describing this and you're paralleling it with this really old historical text, and it's like, oh,
it makes it seem more calculated.
Yeah.
Like more planned and like a smart person was doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, but then like I feel as though that element just disappeared. Like at some point the connection just disappeared. Why? If it's really something that they're doing out of like a compulsion, because most of them were his dad doing that. Yeah. And then it switched to him, and at first he was like, yeah, I'm also doing it like this. No, I'm not. I've got a secret room.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know. But it is weird that the MO like changed, because that's typically like that's not how things go.
Especially because he did learn from his dad.
Yeah. But it could have been him establishing like his own style, I guess.
This is bad, but like, yeah, he learned from his dad, but I've been trained at jobs from people that now I don't do the job the same way.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah. But like you start out by being like, okay, this is what they told me to do.
I'm going to do it exactly how they said. And then you're like, well, this is actually more convenient.
Way to do it.
This torture room is actually more convenient.
Yeah. Like Martin could do it differently one time and be like, wait, I like this a lot better.
Yeah.
I might do it like this.
Yeah.
So I think that definitely played a role. So I think mainly the crimes that disturbed me the most were Gottfried's crimes. Those I was like, this is sick.
Yeah, interesting. Right. It's almost like Martin wasn't, I don't want to say that. I was going to say redacted, that maybe Martin wasn't truly as evil, but you're still.
I do think it's an interesting psychological point because usually, although a lot of our behavior is learned, when we're talking about serial killers, it's not learned as in your parent taught you how to kill people. So I do think that's interesting because, like, there is a sense in which it does not excuse the behavior, but which it explains the behavior. That it's like his dad taught him how to do this, taught him that it was okay insofar as it was like, you can do this even though it's illegal, because he definitely knew it was wrong.
And abused him.
Yeah. But like, and then there's the difference between Harriet, who is like, no.
Yeah.
So.
Right, but that's back to like they never were told.
Mm-hmm.
Like she never brought it to justice either. Like that's what bugs me, that Martin just ends up dying.
Yeah. And well, it was also a little confusing to me because Lisbeth was so suspicious after. She was like, yeah, he's dead and gone. And I was like, I know you didn't kill him. Like, I was with you at the time, but you sure do sound like you killed him.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, his death was a little weird to me.
Again, I just feel like it's the easy way out to writing where we go from discovering.
Yeah, because now none of the rest of the world needs to know that this ever happened.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I guess like Henrik, right? It was him. Like the begging of not exposing the story. That also, and I also, because as a true crime lover, is that the right phrase? Sure. I've also read that like people with anxiety like it so much because it makes you feel like you'll be able to prevent it if it was ever going to happen to you, which like isn't true at all. But
yeah, in my serial killers class, we actually had like a whole chapter about like, why do people like hearing about this stuff? It's just because we're all messed up. We're all a little messed up. And you're entirely right. It makes people feel like they have some semblance of control over it.
Right.
But you don't. I'm sorry.
No, I'm stressed out. Never leaving my house again.
Yeah, I feel like, do you watch a lot of true crime, Kayla? I feel like you're not. Okay.
I just don't talk about it. But like, I went through like a big phase when I was like 15, where I was like only listening to like true crime stuff. So ask me questions about them and I'll tell you. I know people. I know some things.
I actually, this is completely unrelated to the book in some ways, but I'm going to go here because we can. So I feel like there was a point before I started my degree where like I did seek out true crime like books. I never got into podcast. I just don't like podcasts.
No, me neither.
Sorry, but I don't like podcasts and I don't like watching true crime like YouTube videos. I'll occasionally watch like a docu-series or something. But what did you say to me?
I do.
Yeah. But like I would often read it, and I feel like now that I study it, I hear about different criminals from like my textbooks or like stories in class, but I'm never like, tee gonna go like browse the true crime.
Like work, not entertainment.
Yeah, well, I mean, there was a point where Harris was like obsessed with Mindhunter on Netflix. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Okay. And he was like, season 2 came out, and every night I'd be like, I'd really rather not watch it right now because you see, I just had a whole day of classes where we talked about this exact.
That feel like the same thing, yeah. Since we're going way off tangent, this may or may not surprise you, but my favorite thing to ask people is if you could solve one case, what would you solve?
JonBenet.
I feel like I've asked you this before, Kayla.
My brother and I both, like, if we could talk to a ghost, we would call JonBenet right now. Gotta know.
Martine?
JonBenet Ramsey?
You don't know who JonBenet Ramsey?
What was it? Christmas '96? Her brother Burke, I'm gonna say it right now, Burke murdered her. She was like 5.
Same! I agree, and the parents covered it up. Martine, I'm flabbergasted that you don't know JonBenet Ramsey.
No. I just told you I like don't look at true crime stuff. I only know about people from class.
Look at her, she's so cute.
Yeah, it was a little girl.
That's a lot of hair.
And they found her body in the basement of her family home.
The Boulder Police Department, because it was Christmas, didn't only had like the new people, like didn't have like the really smart detectives or whatever. They come in and they just let people come and go for hours. The parents' friends show up, like the dad.
Right. So he was found in the basement, but not till like way later.
Mm-hmm.
The dad picks her up from the basement and walks her upstairs.
Touchy.
Yeah.
I love how Bailey says like touchy as if I'm not
like, following. He's touching her, so there's no way to prove that he didn't touch her before.
Yeah, I got it.
There's a ransom letter. There was a ransom letter that they think the mom wrote.
With her left hand, right?
Yeah. Martina, I have some homework for you. Okay, but what case would you like to solve?
Like that hasn't been solved, you mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I legitimately wouldn't like to solve. Okay, I'd be willing to solve something if the murderer was deceased.
Oh, you don't want anybody coming after
I don't want anybody coming after me.
Okay, fair. My biggest case, I would also say JonBenet Ramsey, but my biggest case is also a local case to me, like in my town. So I won't mention it on live, but I'll mention it later because it's literally like
okay, yeah, send us
right where I live. That just like really bugs me that I would want to know.
Yeah, they're
okay. Good talk.
Oh, I have another one though. I want to know who Jack the Ripper was. Thank you.
Yes. See, if I could find out now who Jack the Ripper is, I'd be like, yeah, Jack the Ripper is dead. He ain't coming after me, you know? Or was it he?
Fair on what you just said of like, why did I just lose that thought?
I don't know. Jack the Ripper's ghost stole it. You were on something.
Oh, did you watch How to Make a Murderer?
No, not yet. It's on my list.
I watched the first episode.
I don't think that was Stephen Avery. I think it was Brendan and the stepdad. Kayla's following me. Have you not watched it?
Me?
Kayla, yeah.
I watched part of it, so I know what you're saying.
Okay.
For sure.
I think it was Martin. So everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, well, it was definitely, except that he didn't kill Harriet, actually.
No, right.
Surprise!
So,
she was really on a sheep farm of some kind.
That was weird.
If you had to run away, where would you go hide?
I mean, Australia is a good one, I think. Not to a sheep farm, but like I think Australia would be good.
Though to be honest, Australia is dangerous. Like I'm not really great with wildlife. You don't have to go to the outback. I know.
You can go to like Sydney.
But I feel like even their spiders are just worse.
We live in Florida. There are some very dangerous spiders here.
I'm not going to say where I would go because then y'all will know and follow me. Thank you. But we all already know. Yes.
I don't know what that means.
Something unsolved.
Who are you? I am questioning everything I know about you.
I'm telling you. I like don't often read crime books anymore. I don't look at true crime stuff. I don't know like any of these like crimes that have happened. I know like why people commit crimes. I know like the process of solving a crime, all those things, but I don't study like all the I don't know names or anything.
I'm shocked by JonBenet Ramsey.
I also feel like you know more about people who did serial things, not.
Yeah, you're right.
One of the only reasons I know names is because this past semester I took a serial killers class, and we were like naming people. So, I don't know. I know about how like juries make decisions. Is that helpful to you?
No. Talk to me about Richard Ramirez. Thank you.
The Night Stalker?
You read I'll Be Gone in the Dark with us?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. And please tell me that The Stranger Beside Me was not your first introduction to Ted Bundy?
No. Dear God, no.
Martina, I swear it's like I don't know who you are anymore. I'm grasping at straws here.
I'm so sorry.
We've stood in the same place as Ted Bundy at one point.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I forgot that.
Kayla is so
I forgot that's the Florida case.
Oh, I also, one of my professors, she visited death row where like they had kept Ted Bundy, and one of the guards was there that had like been there when Ted Bundy was there, and she went up and she was like, so how do you think he got her pregnant? And he was like, okay, here's how I think it happened.
Over the vending machine.
Right.
So walked away.
Yeah, so I won't tell you what he said, but it's disgusting. But yeah, no.
No, please, can we, when we turn the live off?
Yeah, when we're off live, I'll tell you. When we're off live, I will tell you. But like, I should pull up like one of the scenes from the Zac Efron movie, whatever.
So good.
It's called, and I should show you the scene where I'd be like, this elevator, they didn't film the movie here, but like this elevator, I've been in that elevator.
What? You've been in the same elevator as Zac Efron?
Not as Zac Efron, no.
That's much more impressive than Ted Bundy.
Yeah.
I love Zac Efron.
I know you do. You like almost exclusively gave a book 5 stars because it mentioned High School Musical.
I was actually about to ask, do you think if Zac Efron were involved in this book, would your rating have gone up from 2.5 stars? Okay.
He's actually sobbing. Okay.
Zac Efron is just an integral part of me. Actually, wasn't it just your video where you asked what movies you've watched recently? And I said that 6 months ago we watched 17 again.
Yeah.
And I remember the next day I went to work and I was like, yeah, last night Chris and I watched 17 again. And my stepsister was like, you guys watch the weirdest movies. And then she was like, oh yeah, I forgot you're obsessed with Zac Efron.
It's one of the best movies ever created. I'll fight.
That is a good movie. Chris had never seen it when we watched it.
That's unacceptable. We've watched it like
me when you say you don't know John Benet Ramsey.
Listen, I'll do better. Send me links.
Okay.
But yeah, do we have anything else to say about this book?
No. I just appreciate you so much for picking this and always participating in book club. And this was a good pick, regardless of where I ended up in the end, because I swear I like stuff like this. And this was a moment of growth.
Okay. Closing thoughts, Kayla?
No.
Closing thoughts, Michaela? Yeah, I thank you for helping me get a book off of my bookshelf that's been there for years.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate that. And thank you all for having me. It was fun.
I'm so excited that you came.
Yeah. Me too. You should join our shelf this.
I was gonna say my baby's going up to bed. What month? March. Watch me trying to get a hold of Michaela to pick a book.
You should do it.
Hey, you know how to find me.
Yeah. All right. Well, Mabel needs us to end the live, so thanks for joining us, guys. We're gonna end the broadcast now.